Cantarella the Bane, the head of the Phasalia family, is fully equipped with a variety of assets and aquatic helpers for her first banner ever, and it's safe to say that she's launching with many different tools to serve a variety of team comps in version 2.2, with an absurdly fluid playstyle, heavy status effects, and on top of it all, healing. As a Havoc, basic attack damage focused character that specializes in resonance skill damage that also comes with coordinated attacks, units like Jinhsi, Carlotta, and Havoc Rover can get a ton of mileage out of her kit, but it's clear that she doesn't have a DPS partner right now that can fully leverage her full buffing potential. With that, welcome to our full scope, comprehensive guide to Cantarella, the newest addition to Wuthering Waves, and I'm here to break down everything when it comes to how she works, what her best equipment will be, and the steps you need to take across her team building and rotations to make the most out of her insane burst damage and buffing potential. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Cantarella, with her baseline kit, focuses on building up her Forte circuit to enter an enhanced state called Mirage, where she can repeatedly crowd control enemies, heal her allies, and deal a surprisingly large amount of damage. So naturally, that Forte circuit is where it all begins. Cantarella's Forte circuit has a lot of components. The first focuses on Trance, a unique resource with a maximum stack of 5 that's built up in a variety of different ways. Her basic attack, a simple 3-hit attack chain, recovers 1 point of Trance whenever the 3rd hit lands. Using a dodge counter will advance her basic attack chain and make this generation easier. Her baseline heavy attack and mid-air attack, however, simply deal damage and won't generate trance. Another method is through casting her baseline resonance skill, Graceful Step. This attack simply deals damage to the target and recovers 1 point of trance. A third method is through casting her Resonance Liberation, which deals havoc basic attack damage in an area, counts as an echo skill, and generates 3 points of trance, and also grants the diffusion buff to the entire party. While under the effect of diffusion, resonators will trigger a coordinated attack after they deal damage, summoning a Dreamweaver. Damage from Dreamweavers won't trigger another Dreamweaver attack, and one can be summoned every second, for a maximum of 21 coordinated attacks over a 30-second duration. This ability can also be cast in mid-air. The last method of generating trance is through her intro skill, which simply grants 1 point and also advances Cantarella's basic attack chain to stage 3, making it very easy to follow up for another stack. The buildup of this trance is incredibly important to make use of Cantarella's Mirage state, which she can enter by using an enhanced heavy attack, Delusive Dive, whenever she has more than 1 point of trance. While in Mirage, Cantarella transforms her entire moveset across virtually every ability except her Resonance Liberation. This unique state lasts up to 8 seconds or until all of her trance is depleted, but will linger for a short duration. Her Resonance skill transforms into Flickering Reverie. An attack that deals basic attack damage, is considered an echo skill, and also applies the Hazy Dream debuff to the target's hit. Hazy Dream heavily impairs enemy movement for up to 6.5 seconds, and when Cantarella damages an enemy with this debuff, she triggers Jolt, deals basic attack damage to the enemy, and removes Hazy Dream. Damage from other resonators on the team ends Hazy Dream and doesn't trigger Jolt, and damage from coordinated attacks and utilities, like Rosia's Magical Box, won't jolt a target either. This enhanced resonance skill can also be cast in the air. Her basic attack, Illusion Collapse, becomes Phantom Sting, a 3-hit attack chain that can be used on the ground or in the air. Hitting an enemy with this attack consumes 1 point of trance and also generates 1 point of another unique resource called Shiver. The 3rd hit of this attack chain additionally fires off 3 coordinated attacks and deals basic attack damage. While in the air, Cantarella consumes additional stamina while attacking and cannot reset her attack chain. Holding her attack in the air will trigger a unique plunge attack called Abysmal Vortex, and her dodge counter is replaced with a unique attack called Shadowy Sweep that allows her to advance to the 2nd stage of her attack chain. Both of these abilities will consume 1 point of trance and generate 1 point of Shiver when used. Every time Cantarella generates a stack of Shiver, she heals the team. When Cantarella builds up 3 stacks of Shiver in Mirage, she gains another enhanced resonance skill called Perception Drain, which consumes all stacks of Shiver, deals a huge burst of basic attack damage, and heals the team, while also applying the Hazy Dream debuff. It's also considered an echo skill. This is the most important ability to use across Cantarella's rotations and is a huge majority of her team damage. The last ability modified by Mirage is none other than her intro skill, which when activated triggers 3 coordinated attacks and deals increased damage. This ability will also generate 1 point of trance. You might have noticed that Cantarella has several abilities in her kit coded as echo skills, and that's because of the final component of her Forte, Abyssal Rebirth. After Cantarella uses an intro skill, she gains 6 points of Concerto energy every time a resonator on the team casts an echo skill, up to 6 times across 25 seconds. Echoes with the same name can only trigger this effect a single time. Cantarella can generate up to 4 stacks herself through a Mirage Enhanced Resonance skill, her Liberation, and her Shiver Enhanced Resonance skill, along with her own echo skill. Her other teammates' echo skills can build up the last 2 stacks. Leveraging this buff across Cantarella's rotations is key to building up her Concerto efficiently to activate her very powerful outro skill, Gentle Tentacles, which grants a 20% havoc and 25% 100% resonance skill amplification to the incoming resonator that is removed on swap. When factoring in all of Cantarella's abilities, resources, and interactions with each other, she has a surprisingly complex playstyle focused on entering the field, building up 5 stacks of trance through the use of her liberation, basic attacks, and baseline resonance skill before using Delusive Dive to activate Mirage. She'll then cast her Mirage Enhanced Resonance skill to debuff enemies and then complete a full Phantom Sting attack chain to consume 3 stacks of trance and generate 3 stacks of Shiver before using Perception Drain, before following up with even more Phantom Sting attacks to consume the rest of Cantarella's trance before outroing to a teammate. Since Cantarella can enter the Mirage state with less than 5 trance and cast her Resonance Liberation during Mirage to generate 3 more stacks, she can delay the activation of this ability to extend the uptime of her coordinated attacks during a teammate's, like Jinhsi's rotation, and potentially deliver more Phantom Sting attacks. You can also experiment with quick swap rotations during Cantarella's Mirage state to fire off additional coordinated attacks from her enhanced intro and generate more trance mid-Mirage, giving players a lot more options for how to pilot her. She also swims faster underwater and generates trance while in the water. When it comes to Cantarella's inherent skills, her first simply grants her a 20% healing bonus. Nothing too crazy here. Her second, on the other hand, gives her a 6% havoc damage bonus whenever she casts an Echo skill that can stack up to 2 times and last for 10 seconds. With how many of Cantarella's abilities count as Echo skills, this won't be hard to maximize. Cantarella is a character with many different roles and a ton of potential as a sub-DPS buffer, a rejuvenating glow healer, and even a main or dual DPS as long as you're keeping track of her trance stacks. Given her relatively short field time and coordinated attacks, her best role will likely be as an outro buffer and forte battery for a character like Jinhsi, but due to her resonance skill buffing, she has potential with units like Carlotta or Chang-Li, or of course, Havoc Rover. When it comes to actually building Cantarella, starting off with her skill priority, you'll want to maximize her Forte circuit first as it's a majority of her overall damage. Then you'll prioritize her Resonance skill, as levels here will increase her Mirage Enhanced skill damage and Jolt damage. Then you'll go for her Resonance Liberation, but keep in mind that her coordinated attack scaling is very low relative to other units. The last priority will be her normal attack, as it scales very poorly compared to the rest of her kit and it isn't used very frequently. Her intro skill, like with most other units, shouldn't be invested in too much as its low scaling typically isn't worth the weekly boss mats. Now let's talk about Cantarella's weapons, and boy oh boy, she's got a lot of viable options to choose from across the roster. Here's what the calculations are looking like using Cosmic Ripples, the standard 5-star rectifier, as a baseline. Credits to Pridewind. Let's explain these results starting off with her signature, Whispers of Sirens. This weapon grants a whopping 72% crit damage, increases attack by 12%, and then grants a stacking buff whenever the user casts an Echo skill after using an intro or basic attack. Cantarella can easily maintain 2 stacks of this buff, granting her a 40% basic attack damage bonus and a 12% Havoc Resistance Ignore on her attacks. It's incredibly strong on her, and she's the only unit in the game that's able to leverage its full buffs, making it her #1 choice. The next best options are 2 other limited weapons, Yinlins and Judges. Stringmaster provides a fantastic 12% attribute damage bonus, a whopping 36% crit rate, and a stacking attack buff that Cantarella can get a small amount of uptime from in her rotations, but she won't be able to max out its stacks. However, its passive bonuses alone make it a fantastic choice. Judge's weapon, on the other hand, has the exact same passive stats as Cantarella's signature, with a stacking basic attack buff triggered by repeatedly casting resonance skills. Thankfully, Cantarella has multiple casts of resonance skills baked into her rotations, making it very easy for her to max out its effects and also trigger its off-field damage bonus when she outros to a teammate. Luminous Hymn, Phoebe's signature, is simply a stat stick that provides 36% crit and 12% attack, with no other real ways to trigger its bonuses unless you're running Spectrofrazzle on your team. But why would you do that? Cosmic Ripples, the standard 5-star rectifier, is another solid option that falls behind the competition due to its low overall buffs. However, its built-in ER can make your Echo substats easier to manage. When it comes to 4-star options, Cantarella really only has 3 choices. Augment, the BP weapon, is the best overall pick due to its massive attack buff at R5 simply from casting a Liberation. However, its low base attack is a cause for concern that has it fall behind other 5-star choices. Fusion Accretion, the Black Shores weapon, can help loosen ER requirements but unfortunately suffers from a lack of critical stats and damaging weapon effect. Jinso Keeper is a pure attack stat stick that is a last resort. I don't recommend this weapon at all, and you should instead save resources to invest in a better one. Now it's time to move on to Cantarella's Echoes, and Cantarella has a lot of options depending on which role she'll play on her teams. If you're running her as a buffer, you'll want Empyrene Anthem or Moonlit Clouds if she isn't supporting a Havoc character. Cantarella will buff herself with 20% attack across her rotation due to the coordinated attacks built into her kit, making Empyrene the best buffing option for her personal damage despite her low coordinated attack scaling, while Moonlit Clouds will increase her buffing ability at the cost of her damage. If you're buffing a Havoc DPS like Rover or Dan Jin, Midnight Veil is another great option. If you're running her as a pure support, she'll use Rejuvenating Glow with the Fallacy, and if you want her as a main or dual DPS, she'll use Havoc Eclipse with a Nightmare Crownless. Her Echo main stats, on the other hand, will be identical across her different sets. You'll want a crit 4 cost, 2 Havoc damage 3 costs, and 2 attack 1 costs. For her substats, on the other hand, you'll have identical requirements across all sets, prioritizing ER at a minimum of 130 for smooth rotations and as much critical rate, damage, attack, and basic attack damage as possible. Other damage rolls are quite ineffective across her rotations, so don't go searching for them. If you're trying to maximize Cantarella's healing, you can opt for more attack substats. The last area of investment when it comes to Cantarella involves your wallet or a lot of saved Astrite, her sequence nodes. Big thanks to Pridewind for calculating the damage increase per node. Cantarella's first sequence node gives her a big boost in uptime of her Mirage state, making every cast of her Resonance skill restore 1 point of trance, even those that are enhanced. The damage multiplier of all her Resonance skills is increased by 50%, and she gains interruption resistance during Perception Drain. Her second node causes her Liberation's initial cast to apply Hazy Dream to enemies hit, and gives her Jolts a massive 245% multiplier increase. Her third node increases the damage multiplier of her Liberation by a whopping 370%, and causes this ability to trigger Mirage, shortening her rotation time. Her fourth node is a bit mediocre, giving her a flat 25% healing bonus while in Mirage. The fifth node increases her Liberation's coordinated attack count from 21 to 26. And her sixth node, the big one, dramatically increases her on-field potential, increasing the damage multiplier Phantom Sting by 80% while giving her a 30% defense ignore for 10 seconds upon casting her Liberation. It also gives Hazy Dream a minimum uptime of 1.2 seconds even if the enemy is taking damage from her. Now that we've covered Cantarella's build, let's get into some of her teams and optimal rotations. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a lot of options based off the current 2.1 roster that can make full use of her buffing potential, which focuses on Havoc and Resonance skill damage. Her main partners will consist of Resonance skill based damage dealers like Jinhsi and Carlotta, or Havoc damage dealers like Havoc Rover and Dan Jin. Camellia might seem like a potential pick, but she's much better suited with units like Sanhua or Rosia. Cantarella can also be played in compositions that don't run a typical support like Shorekeeper, Verena, or Baija, instead substituting them for a sub-DPS like Dan Jin or Sanhua who can buff Cantarella's personal damage. One of Cantarella's best teams on release will be with Jinhsi and a sustain like Shorekeeper or Verena. In this team, you'll start off on Cantarella, quickly use her Resonance skill to build up 1 trance, and then swap over to Jinhsi to quickly enter Incandescence and her enhanced nuke as fast as possible. Then you'll swap over to Cantarella via intro skill, use her third basic attack, and then cast her Resonance Liberation before building up Concerto on your support and outroing to Jinhsi, who will then re-enter Incandescence, cast her Liberation, and then deliver another enhanced nuke. You'll then outro back to Cantarella, use an Echo skill, and cast her enhanced heavy attack to enter Mirage, following up with a Resonance skill, 3 basic attacks, and then a Perception Drain before using more basic attacks to top up her Concerto, and then outro to Jinhsi for another enhanced nuke, restarting the rotation. Verena is the recommended support for this lineup due to her built-in coordinated attacks, but it can also work fine with Shorekeeper. Another team that leverages Cantarella's buffing abilities is with the head of another Raguna family, Carlotta. In this team, you'll start off on Carlotta, double cast a Resonance skill, then swap to a support to build up Concerto. You'll then swap to Cantarella during this build-up to cast her Resonance skill, and then swap back to the support to top up their Concerto and then outro onto Cantarella, who then uses her third basic attack, her skill again, Echo skills, and then enters the Mirage state. You'll then use her enhanced skill, 3 basic attacks, and then her enhanced skill again, before quickly following up with a Resonance Liberation to grant 3 additional stacks of trance while still maintaining Mirage. You'll then cast 3 more basic attacks before outroing to Carlotta, who finishes off her rotation with another double cast of her Resonance skill, Plunge, Forte enhanced heavy attack, and then her Liberation shots, before ending the rotation with another double cast of her Resonance skill and Echo skill. This is a typical hypercarry rotation that can easily replace Carlotta with another unit, like Havoc Rover. A third way to use Cantarella is in a team with no dedicated support, instead replacing them with another buffer like Dan Jin or Sanhua. Using Sanhua as an example, we'll start off the rotation using her skill, Liberation, and then Detonation heavy attack. During Sanhua's detonation, we'll swap over to Cantarella, use her Resonance skill, and then swap back to Sanhua to top off her Concerto, Echo skill, and then intro onto Cantarella. Cantarella will then complete her third basic attack, her skill again, Echo skill, and enter Mirage before casting her Resonance skill, attacking 3 times, using Perception Drain, and then her Liberation to refill her trance and attack 3 more times, before outroing to a third member of her team. This third member will typically be a DPS character like Carlotta, Havoc Rover, or even a Jinhsi. Cantarella also has a huge amount of potential in certain quick swap rotations due to her Abyssal Rebirth buff that batteries her concerto when other teammates use echo skills, and her special enhanced intro when she has the Mirage state active. But since this is an early release guide made for the average player, we won't be diving into too many of her advanced mechanics now. Now that we've covered Cantarella's team rotations, it's time to talk about Cantarella's, and she has some complications and interesting mechanics built into her kit. Before Cantarella uses an intro skill, she always wants to precast a resonance skill to generate 1 stack of trance, allowing her to easily reach 3 stacks by using her intro, and then her third basic attack. From there, you can opt for a simpler rotation by casting a Resonance Liberation, giving her 5 stacks of trance before entering Mirage with a heavy attack and casting her enhanced resonance skill. You'll then attack 3 times, consuming 3 chance and generating 3 shiver before casting Perception Drain and following up with more attacks to top up her concerto and then swap to another unit. You can opt for a more advanced rotation by delaying the activation of her Liberation until after she's in the Mirage state. Instead, using her heavy attack while at 4 stacks of trance to enter Mirage. Use her enhanced skill and then attack 3 times to cast Perception Drain, following up with a Liberation cast to grant 3 more trance so that Cantarella can use 3 more Mirage basic attacks before outroing to another character. Since this is an early guide, keep in mind that there might be more ways to optimize Cantarella's rotation further, so be on the lookout for follow-up content if you're interested in new tech. At the end of the day, Cantarella is one of the most versatile and unique units in the game that blends burst damage, healing, and fantastic buffing into a very fluid kit, with her main drawback being her lack of a best-in-slot DPS that can fully leverage her Havoc and Resonance skill buffs. Her main comparison in the role is with Brandt, who has a best-in-slot partner with Chang Li. However, she still has incredible potential as a best-in-slot Jinhsi buffer due to her plentiful coordinated attacks and performs very well with a free-to-play unit like Havoc Rover. While she's a fun character to play with many possible roles, she truly isn't necessary across any team comps in the present if you already have units like Jeja for Jinhsi, Shorekeeper for healing, or Dan Jin for raw Havoc buffing, but opens up many potential team comps in the future that focus on cycling outro buffs, and has some very interesting upcoming synergy with Rosia. She's very far from a must-pull, especially in the present, but meta strength might not be the only reason why you want this unit. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.
Delicious.